My pleasure and proud privilege to welcome you all on behalf of Bharat Exhibitions to the 8th edition of the Smart Cities and Intelligent Mobility India 2022 Hybrid Summit. This forum will trace the importance of various aspects of infrastructure that needs to be planned, designed, built and operated in order to provide the smart attribute to a city development. That is integrated command, control centers, intelligence center, intelligent transport management systems, traffic management and information control center, smart governance, surveillance, network and communication systems, AI, IoT, innovative in-building solutions, etc. It is going to bring together global thought leaders to explore the intersection of technology, smart mobility, Internet of Things, I also invite Dr. Chinmay Hegde, Managing Director, Astricos Consulting Private Limited. Thank you, gentlemen, for doing the honors. Shri Sanjeev Arora ji, Honorable Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha. Let's put our hands together to welcome. Inviting our guest of honor, Dr. Rajkumar Upadhyay, Executive Director, C.DOT. Inviting Mr. Sajjan S., Vice President, Research and Development, Global Northern Communication. Warm welcome, sir. Inviting Dr. Sumit D. Chaudhary, Founder, Chairman and MD, GIA Smart Cities. Warm welcome, sir. Inviting Shri George Kuruvilla, CMD, Broadcast Engineering Consultants, India Limited. Warm welcome to you. Inviting Shri Sushil Kumar, DGT IoT Telecommunication Engineering Center to kindly grace the stage. And also inviting Mr. Chinmay Hegde to kindly grace the stage with his presence. Warm welcome to all our distinguished dignitaries gracing the stage. And before we move ahead with the proceedings, I would request Mr. Shashidharan, Managing Director, Bharat Exhibitions, to kindly welcome Honorable Chief Guest with a floral bouquet. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for sparing your valuable time in gracing this occasion. A very warm welcome to you. I would now request Mr. Shashidharan to kindly propose the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the Smart Cities and Smart Mobility event. We have a chief guest, Shri Sanjeev Arora ji, Member of Parliament from Rajya Sabha. And we have distinguished experts, those who will be discussing how till now the smart cities have been and how can we monetize these smart cities and what next. When we talk about smart cities, smart cameras, my only request to the government is that you should not look at L1, because when we look at L1, the quality of cameras goes down or the systems goes down, because most of the cases when it happens, smart city means it should be secure city as well. The cameras, if they can't take the correct image, then we will not be able to
distinguished guests, on and off the dais. This is a moment of happiness for us. We, Norden, came to India around 5 years back. And by the time India was already discussing about smart cities, and when we were internally having our global discussions, how we have to focus on India, one of the key area proposed by the Indian team was to have a major focus on the smart city. But honestly speaking, there was all skeptical note, people were looking at it, how India kind of a country is going to take it forward. We were all hearing so-called countries talking about smart city, and a developing nation like India, was it the right area to be focused was a question at that point of time. But then when, after religious discussions and evaluation, then we have decided to focus in that line. And today, after 7 years, when we look back, or the journey of smart city, as a citizen of India, I feel so proud, the kind of progress that we have done in this segment. And, I can proudly say that when we are talking to other countries, like, we are doing smart cities in Vietnam, we are doing, supporting Africa, it is not called, so-called smart cities as a name, but then they call it as social surveillance or whatever you call it as. But then they all look up to India, what we were doing last 5 years. And this success is something that we have to really celebrate. And our authorities and the leadership, this is such a wise moment that we have done. We have to, this is another aspect of it actually. See, when you look at the civil infrastructure, I'm not going to take much of time, but then I have to put this also. See, any development when people are looking at on a political angle, the civil infrastructure, when it's being constructed, even now we are talking about, parks also in a smart level. That's it. But then even a park also, at least something is visualizable. You can communicate to the people. But when you are talking about a smart city, is it that is essential for a country like India? Is it our necessity? What's the question? But I know you must be aware, but then this is like health and beauty. When you talk about a civil infrastructure development of a country, it is more of a flesh or a beauty external. But the moment it is coming to smart city, it is your health. It is like your organs, your nerve system. It is getting connected to the deeper angle of our public. Now, the kind of data we are being pulled out. You have seen, we are predominantly on the computer vision, IoT and robotics is our core area. So when you say computer vision, you have seen, ITMS systems are being implemented. And we are so privileged that our, Prime Minister on constituency Varanasi itself, we were able to execute the project. The project is now taking completion. You must be aware of it. So we were privileged to be a part of it actually. And today, the kind of data that is flowing to the control system. Earlier we were fighting whether it has to be in the police department, whether it is in the other department. Now the data being pulled out is actually, we are able to use the total traffic flows, the total, the kind of data decision making that we are able to make out of it is too good. And the traffic is becoming more structured. It is not only traffic, any walk of life. Be it your weather conditions, be it your, atmospheric data, be it your seaway system, everywhere you can bring in this technology and bring out the data. You know about smart lighting. I don't have to brief all those areas. You all are expert, I know. So all this smart lighting also, how much of energy was being wasted out there? On a smart waste management, how much of lorries were running across and still you have the garbage, storage out there. But then now you have centralized data. The authorities can make better decisions out of it. So this is all about health having a healthier system. Yes, of course we need beauty, but health is more important. So that is what it is, becoming crucial, and India definitely is being successful and heading a global division, talking to multiple countries. I can understand, of course, not only developed countries, but the Asia, other countries like, be it your Indonesia, be it your Vietnam, be it your Cambodia. When we are talking to people of them, they're little looking up to us. That is really a moment of happiness. And again, before maybe last parliament election, again, our meetings are all, coming up. Boss, it is not 100, it's going to be 200. So I think you guys have to work more on the product and that so much of directions are coming. No, but we have not seen anything happening. And now we are showing such a massive figure of 4,000, cities. And again, being part of that discussion of being 100 cities, skeptical on 100 cities, today when we are talking about 4,000 cities, I am not skeptical, or maybe our system is not skeptical, because we know we can achieve it. We can very well achieve it. And on a last note, which I wanted to put forth to the authorities, who are the decision makers, influencers out here, there is a lot of fund that we are spending on local self-government departments. Every year, year on year. On your lighting poles, on your road infrastructure, different areas. Let us have a guideline formed based on a smart city guideline. What we have a lot of use cases available. So, for example, one simple example: putting up a light pole. Should it be any more a light pole alone? Can we not think about a smart pole? I'm not saying about having a smart pole today. But why can't we have provisions to attach your, a LoRa connectivity system, or maybe a, weather sensing system, or maybe your, the e-waste management could be plugged onto the pole, wherein people can throw that every 100 meters people can, one could be a green, one could be yellow, one could be red. Let them categorically, let us make it a habit for the people to throw their garbage. Now you are cursing the people of throwing the garbage on the ground, but let's give a provision. And let's have the alerts coming into the central control room where we can make a measurement of that. Let's have a collection system which is not starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Let's start at 3 o'clock in the morning, wherein if the systems are running properly, you can actually manage the timeline also. You really don't have to run a whole lorry as a rally. Instead, sense the data. Send a small vehicle out there to pick up that alone. It will affect your traffic also. So my simple request is actually to have a framework developed, issued to the local self-government. So whatever the investment, it will be 10% extra or 20% extra. Or maybe you have to, maybe let the budget be there. You do lesser, but do it in a smarter way. So that the 4,000 can be made a lakh of poles available in the country. Each and every village is getting connected to the network, and the kind of amount of data that is going to flow is huge. And I'm sure the authorities out here, the decision makers, could make a better judgment out of it, and we are all there. And finally, the Make in India process. People like us can invest more on India. We are right now coming with a factory in Bangalore, and we have a lot of, there is a drone development thing is happening, thanks to the central government for the wonderful decision of, banning the other, this thing. So there are a lot of things that people will, I'm sure that, the investment is going to be huge. And that's all what I want to tell. I don't want to take away too much of time. Guests are waiting, experts are waiting. So this is all from our end. So thank you so much for Mr. Sasidharan and Ms. Ashokji for giving this wonderful opportunity. And thanks for the patient listening. That's all, concluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that wonderful keynote address. And before we proceed further, I would request Shri Sanjeev Aroraji to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of appreciation, a small memento, to our keynote speaker, Mr. Sajjan S., Vice President, Research and Development, Global Northern Communication. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, sir, for doing the honors. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the proud privilege in inviting our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Sanjeev Arora ji, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, for the inaugural address. Let's put our hands together to once again welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests on the stage. Thanks for having me over, and you always end up learning a lot by attending such events. But the only thing is, Shri Dharanji didn't give me enough time. I mean, I am replacing somebody here, so he called me like 1.5 hours back, and he said that I have spoken to my party people and also you need to come. So I had a quick shower and came here. So whatever I could think on my way, I am going to let you know about smart cities. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Sanjeev Arora and I am from Ludhiana, which is one of the city which has been taken up by government to be developed as smart city. And I don't know, maybe it is Ludhiana. I don't see anything smart happen till now, but let us hope it doesn't remain the same. So what I think is that the basic infrastructure should be strong to begin with to develop it into a smart city. Of course, it's a part of smart city, but that should be developed. Now it rained few days back and the cars were floating there. So what will smart city do? What will mobility do? Unless and until there is rainwater harvesting, there is proper sewerage system, underground wires. I mean all this, and all this is part of public health. So there shouldn't be waterlogging, sewerage should be strong. Now in Ludhiana, I don't know if anybody is from Punjab or have visited Punjab. There is a Buddha Nala going through Ludhiana. And it is always, let me tell you, half of the hospitals in Ludhiana have patients because of that Buddha Nala. There is so much population on both the banks of that kind of a rivulet, which is always full of pollution, industrial as well as domestic. I don't know how many environmentalists, how many consultants have gone, but that has not been fixed. For some reason, there have been change of 3 governments. Now our government has come, they are serious, but it's not that I am praising my government, but let us see what the time will tell, because we are there only from last 4 months. So if such a thing is going through the city, whatever you do to the rest of the city, I don't think it's any good. And when Shri Dharanji called me in the morning, I said, what are the topics of discussion? He must have said that smart city and mobility. Do you know what I understood? Whatever, maybe it was on speakerphone, I thought he's saying smart city and monetization of the expenses. So when I came here, I came to know it's mobility. Of course, mobility is very important, but I have a few pointers on monetization also, because it is very important. You see, central government says that state government had to spend this much money, so we are not giving you the balance. Now state government says, okay, you first spend, then we'll spend, because all the state governments are starving at present because of freebies or anything, whatever you may say, of their political promises, or their own income is less. So half of these smart cities, maybe more than that, are not going to take off. Gentleman, he was talking about Agra, that it is the most successful city. So the one reason behind it is that UP is a rich state. They are flush with funds. But the states which are not, I mean, they can't. He was nodding, so you are saying that UP doesn't have funds? You are not agreeing. Yeah, that's fine, but income is there, that's what I feel. Compared to other states, that's what I am doing. But yes, all the experts are going to talk a lot about mobility, but what I would like to talk about is monetization, if at all states can't afford. So the best way of monetizations is, other day I was in Parliament, Mr. Gadkari was telling us about the GPS system they are going to start to collect tolls. And he was so sure that within 1 year it will be operational in India, or maybe start the operations in India. They have already shortlisted. Now, in every city, if you people know, there was octroi. But most of the cities in India, in Punjab they used to call it chungi also, but it's octroi. When you enter the city, especially the goods trucks and all, they had to pay a fees, then only they could enter. So it became traffic hassle, it became, so finally governments abolished octroys. But if they want to collect that, that's another system of GPS, where the traffic doesn't have to stop, so they can collect and spend it on their city. Now, second thing is the collection of taxes by local bodies. Till it is in the hand of governments, I am sure it's never going to happen. So they need to privatize that. At same taxes, same percentage of taxes, if they privatize just the collection, I can assure you the collection will go to double within a couple of years. First of all, half of these houses are not registered for house tax, so they don't even get tax notices. The people who get, they do not pay. They say, साल के end में जब government को पैसों की ज़रूरत होगी, they will come with OTS. That's what local body. So, if the collection is privatized by cities, especially the smart cities which are coming up, I mean, they will have money to spend. They will have money to give to you guys so that it can be a smart city. Economics have to work. Neither central government can spend all the money, neither state government. I was just sitting on mobility, we were discussing, I said, in Ludhiana, if we have to do, we do not have any money. So they said the best way is, we get a share from the traffic challans and we will do it. So I said, okay, go ahead and give a proposal which makes sense. So what I am trying to say is that this is an important part to make this a successful smart city. Of course, there will be quite a few cities success, but to make it successful countrywide, we have to think all of these issues. Once again, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that wonderful inaugural address, for sparing your valuable time and being here with us. I would request Mr. Shashidharan to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude and appreciation to our Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Sanjeev Arora ji. Thank you once again, sir. Thank you, Mr. Shashidharan, for doing the honors. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we move towards the inaugural panel discussion session. And we thank our Honorable Chief Guest once again for being here with us. Thank you very much indeed, sir. And moving towards the inaugural panel discussion session, the session will be chaired and moderated by Dr. Sumit D. Chaudhary, founder, chairman and MD, GIA Smart Cities. And Dr. Sumit Datta Chaudhary is an Indian entrepreneur, a business executive and an author. Currently, he serves as the managing director and founder of the GIS Smart Cities on IoT and AI company focused on telecom and ICT solutions for smart cities and smart sites. He's working with several cities in India to define their smart city solutions and building unique propositions to solve urban problems in the cities. He is also the technical advisor of BARC India. He was also contracted as the CTO of Brookfield Properties in India. He is also the founder of Sesovera Inc., a US incorporated edge compute AI platform and solutions company. And ladies and gentlemen, eminent panelists for the session are Dr. Rajkumar Upadhyay, Executive Director C. Shri George Kuruvilla, CMD Broadcast Engineering Consultants India Limited. We welcome you on the dais, sir. Shri Sushil Kumar, he would be he's here. Very warm welcome to you, sir. DDG IoT Telecommunication Engineering Center. Mr. Prashant Oberoi, Head National Sales, E-Governance, Northern Communications. Mr. Chinmay Hegre, Managing Director, Estricos Consulting Private Limited. And we also welcome on the dais Mr. Rajat Mukherjee, Director General Broadband India Forum. Warm welcome to you, sir. And may I now hand over to our moderator. I hand over to Dr. Sumit D. Chaudhary to carry forward the proceedings of the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. I'll head back to the seat after I just introduce the topic and also give a little bit of a brief as to why we are here today. I was told to sort of come up with this slot, the inaugural session of this conference, and I talked about not just smart cities but smart mobility. And this is one of the things that Sanjeev ji was talking about, that the projects that work across the country, projects that can be monetized, mobility and smart mobility is something that the private sector has taken up and it is going to be monetized. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this event. And this is one of those events which I have been associated from the first session itself, from the first version. This is the 8th session. We launched our company 8 years ago, working only in the smart city space, and since the last 8 years, we have worked in more than 17 smart cities. We have worked in more than 150 Swachh Bharat cities. We have worked in railways, airports, focused on how to make our environment, our built-up environment smart. Now, what is smart? I always start up by saying what is smart. Smart is things that are constantly learning and evolving. You can have something which is good, well built. This room is well built, but it is not smart. It is not learning how many people are sitting over here and changing its temperature. It's not learning anything. It's just there, it's built. Versus a smart city is a city that has figured out how to keep on changing and evolving. Looking at the current traffic, can the traffic lights be changed? Looking at the current temperature, can things be moved? Can the lights of this building change based on the audience, based on the number of people who are there? So essentially, smart is something that is learning and evolving. How do you do that? There are lots of technologies that will be talked about today. And the second thing that is there in our title today, smart cities. Cities is a built-up space that we live in, we work in, we play in. It's a built-up space that we interact with. So smart cities is about evolving built-up spaces, and this built-up space could be a traffic, could be a road, could be a hospital, could be a factory that you work in, could be a schools, could be buildings, your homes. All of these things can be made smart. Smart is again learning and evolving built-up spaces. Now, of all the projects that have happened in the last 7 years, as I said, I have been deeply involved in the central mission as well as in the multiple cities. Traffic and mobility has been the biggest contributor to one thing, which is the quality of life. And smart cities mission across the world is focused on only one thing: how do you improve the quality of life of the citizens? I am working on a project, very interesting and distinguished project for the city of Delhi, which is the intelligent traffic management city. You must have seen it in the newspapers a couple of weeks ago, putting in all kinds of artificial intelligence to streamline the traffic, and we are thinking through a lot of new technology. So the Commissioner of Police, Rakesh Asthana ji, opened the session that day with one first statement was, why are you doing this project? And his first statement was, we are doing this project to make the quality of life of Delhi citizens better. If you look at everything else we are doing in that project, it is all magajmari. The main intent of the project is to improve the quality of life so that you can get home faster. You can have a quality of meal with your family. You can improve that, and that is the biggest contributor to quality of life, including health and other things that Sir talked about before. That if you don't improve the health of the people, if you don't improve the quality of education, if you don't improve the quality of air, you are going to have a bad quality of life. So today's session is about understanding how can we improve our quality of life, and how can we take the projects which have successfully run over the last 6-7 years in this country and scale it to 4,000 cities. So this is about scalability, it is about innovation, and it is about improving the quality of life. So with that today, I would like to welcome my distinguished panelists. All of them are really smart people working really hard to make this country better for all of us. So let's applaud the audience with the panelists first, and then get straight into the session today. I think you have already got the session. We have got Dr. Rajkumar Upadhyay, we have got Shri George Kurvela, Shri Sushil Kumar ji from DOT, who's specifically looking at implementation of IoT. Then we have got Prashant Oberoi ji from Norden, and finally we have got to give the vote of thanks. I think Mr. Mukherjee is going to come back later on stage. So I will start the session today with a set of with giving each speaker time to talk about their own opinion about this topic, and then we'll come up with some questions. I deliberately did not want to prep you all with some questions, sir, so that it comes spontaneously, because smart cities and quality of life is something that impacts all of you dearly. I don't want you to come prepared with an answer which is canned. Talk about your own experiences in this city. You all are part of this ecosystem, and let us see what we can do collectively as smart people to help the country. Thank you. So Sushil Kumar ji, you are sitting on the leftmost seat from here, or rightmost from the rest of the people. So we'll start with you, and we'll just go around if you don't mind.
Speak from here or there? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary, and I'm really thankful to Bharat Exhibition for giving me this opportunity to speak here. My views about IoT and the smart cities, as Dr. Chaudhary has spoken, the smart city as a evolving things, and the IoT and the ICT are the technologies which makes the things smart. And smart city will be having this smart homes, smart automotive, smart healthcare, city surveillance, that is one of the most important part, and the traffic, intelligent traffic, and so on. And there may be so many verticals and large number of applications in the smart cities. Now you see this IoT and ICT technologies, how we can utilize these technologies, and a lot of work has been done in the country in 100 smart cities which were finalized sometime in 2015, and lot of work is in progress and lot of is required to be done. It is very much required that the smart cities which are being developed using huge expenditure, they should remain smart not only for the present generations, they should remain smart for the future generations also. And it is necessary that we should use the standard-based solutions in the smart cities. The platform is one of the most innovative item in the smart city, and after that we are having the communication technologies, and these two items, they are very essential for any vertical, whether it is automotive, city surveillance, or anything. In the case of platforms, the platforms should remain evolving. And future platforms will be based on data, and for monetization we can use various data which will be coming from the either from the traffic or the vehicles that can be used for the insurance purpose of the vehicles. So that is the part of the monetization. And working on this, TEC released 18 technical reports in the last 6 to 7 years. And the latest technical report which was released, that is on IoT ICT standards for smart cities. And these documents are having the various challenges in the smart cities, the study of the policy and the guidelines analysis available in India and some of the smart cities across the globe, then the study of the verticals, and further the security, security challenges in the smart cities and the recommendations. We are working with the ITUT Study Group 20. ITUT Study Group 20 has released a series of standards ranging from devices, gateways, then platforms, data and blockchain, artificial intelligence, and about the secure onboarding of the devices. It is very important. And further, if the IoT devices, they should be secured, and security, if suppose the devices are hacked, they can brought down the entire ecosystem. In the smart city, like cellular V2X, that will be the technology for the smart mobility in future. And this technology is expected to be implemented in the country also in the coming years. This Niti Aayog has formed a committee for finalizing the technology around 3 years back, and last year they floated a policy paper, and TEC has given comments on that. And 3GPP based cellular V2X is the only technology as on date which will be used, and the trials are going on by 5G AA, 5G Automotive Association across the globe in Europe and US, and this technology is being implemented in some parts of the globe. Regarding the platform, the TEC adopted 1M2M standards as a national standard, and the same has been referred by BIS in their reference architecture, and further the MOHUA has mentioned the BIS IoT RA in their RFP, and they issued the advisory to smart city SPVs. So smart city SPVs should mention this thing in their tenders. In fact, it is very important for the smart city SPVs to understand that in future, there will be so many applications which will be emerging, like cellular V2X will be in future. And if the platforms are not standardized, then it will be very difficult to implement the future applications. And we have recommended that the platform should be based on 1M2M standards. If there is some other standards which is available globally or in India, it should interoperable with the 1M2M standards. Regarding security, the secure onboarding of the IoT devices, that is very important, and for this we have released the code of practice and the National Trust Center framework. And this National Trust Center will be able to will facilitate the IoT and smart city platforms in managing the security and vulnerability issues which are detected by the platforms, and further refer to National Trust Center, and National Trust Center will get them managed by the manufacturers and the researchers. This is really a very, very important item. This I'm stopping here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you soon again. Chinmay, your opinion on the topic, and we'll come more questions that you would like.
Good morning, everybody. So mobility and mobility in smart city, these are actually, quite closer topics, and it cannot go without each other, right? So knowing the relativity of the mobility aspect in the Indian urban areas, right? So mobility and mobility challenges, both of them are quite a relative topics compared to the geography. Whatever is the mobility challenge in Delhi may not be the mobility challenge in the northeast corner of the country, right? So same thing, it could not be in other urban areas. The simple aspect is the density of the traffic at the same time, or density of the mobility, or mobile vehicles in the same time. considering these aspects, making the city smart in terms of mobility is nothing but sustainability, right? So, because sustainability is the one which is quite emerging across the globe, and mobility is quite related to the sustainability aspects. It could be climatic related matters, or it could be durability of the infrastructure, or various such kind of factors when it comes to the sustainability. Now, of course, we have been implementing smart cities in, key, the dense cities of the India as well as in the northeast corner of India, both the ways. We have faced different, world of, challenges ultimately. In Delhi, Bangalore, or Hyderabad, or any such kind of cities, or in tier 2 cities also, the challenges related to mobility could be related to the density of the vehicle, but in the other terrains like Himalayan terrains, it is more of emergency management, right? So the landslides or something, those kind of challenges we face. We look forward to such kind of, solving such kind of problems, sitting in the, or, command control center of the city, and then getting them forward to continuously evolve in terms of, solving the such kind of a challenges. That's my perspective. Probably mobility to be more sustainable, to be smarter. That's the thing.
I would ask Shri George Kurvilla, who's the CMD of BESIL, to talk about the work that they are doing quite extensively, building command center, building communication systems, making a lot of our infrastructure smart. So I think he has got a lot of perspective on the work that is going on. So George, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to such an wonderful session, and for such a gathering and a panelist that we have together with us. I would say, one of the most important things what Mr. Kumar has touched upon is the standardization, which is what we should start at. So standardization and architecture design of any smart city or smart mobility that we are talking about, we have to start from there. So when different smart city authorities or the they start the process of tendering, we find there are some companies, there are some technologies, they will go and start working with them, and naturally to get the tender they would want those specific specifications to be inserted so that the others may not compete, and things like that happen. And in order to win the tender, they will sometimes quote so low and get the tender, but then we all know that it's nearly impossible to implement the tender. And perhaps that has been the bane that we are facing. Why, after the Honorable Prime Minister's announcement of smart cities many years back, still many cities are not able to start with the projects. The simple reason being is those RFPs have not been made properly, or the proper participation has not happened. The right kind of technology and the people in the company have not got the order. They have not been paid in time because of the reasons of the clauses that are happened in the RFP. These are, these are the, I would say, the hindrances that today we are facing, why the delays are happening. So as Kumar ji has said about that once we have these standards, then we know that, okay, these are the standard which the entire country, whether the TEC makes the standards, that the entire country, all the smart city authorities have to use those basic standards, when they are issuing the RFP. It is not in the whims and the fancies and the specific interest of a particular company or organization that the tender and the RFP is designed and made to start with the, so I think that is my first thought, that I feel the standardization across the country about the product and the services. I feel that the work is so big. We are talking about 100 cities, but now we are talking about 4,000 cities. If I look at, improving the quality in 4,000 cities, I, look at, not 4,000 cities, if I say, the towns and, across the country, when like small areas as well, they even get affected by that. So when we look at, the entire scenario across the country, we have to look at the second part of it, what have been talked about by Mr. Chinmay is the sustainability of the project. So how we can get the return on the investment that we are making. Otherwise, I feel that the states do not have money. Even the authorities do not have money, to fund the entire smart city processes of a country or of any particular city. So traffic is fine, through the challans that are given, you're able to get back the money. But what about the CCTVs that we put for the policing purposes? How do we get return on investment on that? How do we, get money from the other activities that we do in order to make the city smart? We have to develop that ecosystem, how a particular project can self-generate the return on investment which a city is making, so that it is sustained for a long time. So I think that is where we have to put our head together, that what can be a simple thing like, if I'm able to manage the traffic properly in a particular city, I'm saving on the fuel, because my lights are smart, so they know, okay, how much is the traffic on this particular line or this side, so it gives more time to the particular side of it. And to the other side, which is small, it gives little time, so because sensors are there which are sensing what is the kind of traffic which is flowing, and so the whole light, the traffic lights are moved around this thought. It not only looks at that particular junction, but it also is looking at the nearby junctions around it, so that the holistically the entire movement of the traffic is moved in such a way that we save a whole lot of money through the fuel and the carbon that is emanated. So therefore the pollution based expenditure that we do, or even the carbon rating points that we can earn out of a particular system that we have evolved. There are consultancy companies, we can say that how much carbon credit we can earn through implementing a particular project, and which can be traded nationally or internationally with the other department. So I feel sustainability is, also very important of our project. The third thing that I feel is that interoperability has been mentioned. As I said that, different cities, if they implement projects, but then which is not or operable with the other cities or other areas. I just say, let's say we did some part of a project of policing CCTV in Rajasthan. So 7 cities, were tendered out. So, the different companies won it. The interoperability between, the servers which have been used, they're connected. But what about if somebody does something in a particular state and it moves on to the other state? Does the server talk to each other, which is of the other, state? If not, then somebody does something here and moves on and runs away to the other state. How do you track him? Incident mapping, you can track to a person's what he was wearing, what he was looking like. You can catch those impressions, but he moves on to the other city. Other cities doesn't have the same kind of server and the softwares, to track the same person. So we lose on that. So though it is a state subject, yet it affects the other states also. So the interoperability of the technologies that we are using the open source methods of technology, so that it's not proprietary to a particular company, allowing people to participate and come over and do the project. So I will close with this. Business is huge. The whole country need to become smarter. We have not even started with Delhi as yet. So much of business is there. So why fight with each other? Get the right price for the right thing, and give the work to everybody. Everybody is happy, and the work will parallelly move across the country, makes the standard, make the rate contracts, and let us move ahead, to implement the project, which is the key thing. If we implement it, everything is going to move with it. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, sir. There is a lot of money available in this country to be spent. We just don't know how to spend it smartly. I think that's the first thing that we need to make smart is how to spend the money. And then the second thing to make smart is how to collect the money back. So 2 smart projects are here. Anybody is willing to figure out that one, you're there. Sir, Dr. Upadhyay, you are a very noted, knowledgeable person in this space of how all the things that people have said, you are a guru. So please enlighten us as to your perspectives on.
I think, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I think most of it has been summed up by my fellow panelists, the challenges, the opportunity, the sustainability. So I'm not going to repeat that. I will only say that I'll give the view of CDOT. So the main thing which Sushil Kumarji said, the standards. We need to have all our smart cities following the national standards. If they don't follow national standard, what happens? What is smart city? There are sensors, there are actuators, there are applications, there are command and control, and there is a platform which is managing all this. Given a company comes up and gives you a proprietary thing, okay, one device will work. The moment the second device guy will go, he has to depend on that vendor. Otherwise, his device will never enter. And what happens is throttles the competition. The prices will come down drastically if the central platform, which is, managing all these applications as well as devices and the command control center, is standard based, so anybody can get in. And why I'm saying this, look at our telecom. 3GPP makes the standards. Everybody follows. And therefore, what happens if, different kind of phones are produced on different technologies? One, it will not interwork with each other. Second, the prices will go up. Because on a particular standard, standards are already given by 3GPP. On that, everybody makes their BTS, everybody makes their core system, everybody makes their UEs, and they interwork. Whether you move from Karnataka to Delhi, Delhi to US, US to Europe, it all works because the standards. And therefore, the main thing is the standards. And some success we have achieved. We have been also lobbying with Urban Ministry that, whatever RFPs are done in the states need to follow the standards. And what are those standards? The national standards of our country are nothing but 1 M2M global standards. 1 M2M global standards have been adopted by our country. And we at CDOT have designed a common service platform which is fully compliant to this particular platform. Apart from us, CDAC is another company which has also made the platform. So our request will be that whatever implementations happen, they happen around this particular standard. It opens up innovation because then people will find a better way of doing it. And what is happening in most of the smart cities, a good officer comes up, he takes the challenge. RPs are, we can't expect the officer to know everything technical knowledge, so they get guided by the vendors. Based on that vendors, the RFP comes out, and after RFP, after the officer gets transferred, the other officer scratches his head. That is what is happening, and that is how the most of these problems are there. So now somebody may say, what is the solution? Now I can give a simple example. Suppose fire takes place in this building. So the moment fire takes place, the AHUs should shut off, lift should shut off automatically. Automatically, the data should be transferred to the traffic lights. And for ambulance, this thing should be created. Automatically, it should be connected to the medical facility. How it is possible if you follow the standards? Because current implementations are all in isolation. The data sharing, the interoperability, the location, the discovery, the security, the charging, everything which the platform 1M2M actually decides is not happening. The other thing Sushilji mentioned about the National Trust Center, if an IoT device today it is there, we don't know what it is, how it is attacking others, there is no standard. But once you come through this 1M2M standard, these are all taken care. And National Trust Center will, before onboarding the IoT device into the network, it will cross-check, it will do a KYC kind of check, and there are standards. And I'm happy that TEC, CDOT and industry work together, and one of the standard has gone into ITU. Now, in fact, from CDOT, we have been asking all the startups in our country, 30 have onboarded with us. We are asking all of them, if you have devices, if you have applications which are not 1M2M compliant, please come to us. We will give you assistance free of cost. If required, space in my office, I'll give. Any funding is required, I'll give. Please come, make these devices and the applications 1M2M compliant. Why it is true, if you implement a solution in India based on compliant, you can tomorrow go to Sri Lanka, tomorrow go to Indonesia, Malaysia, anywhere. Once a standard base. But if you integrate your system to a particular vendor, I won't name them, if it can only work there. It can't move the other side. So therefore, if you have to monetize one, then the question was sustainability. Sustainability also will come if the cost goes down and the data sharing happens from one side to another side. Data sharing is not happening. Like traffic thing, if somebody is not wearing belt, for example, I saw this application working in Bangalore. Somebody is not wearing a belt, automatically the camera detects, it should automatically go to the transport and the transport record should come out. I mean, unless there is a interoperability among the application, data sharing among the application, we will not succeed. And therefore, our request will be that whatever tenders come, they should be as per the 1M2M global standard, which are our national standards today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think I'll just add in a couple of things in your point about the fire and the lights going on. Did you know that in Delhi today, we are working on the traffic management project I mentioned. There are 6 different names given to the single traffic light by 6 different departments. PWD calls it something, Ministry of Road Transport calls it something else. The guy who's actually maintaining the traffic calls it something else. The police actually inherit those two. So the signal cell of the police call it something else. So there are 4 or 5 different ways in which, forget about the technology of what the light is. This is the name of the light. If I don't know the name of the light, it doesn't matter what technology I'm using, I won't reach the light. I'll reach some other light. For the last 2 months, my people are finding lights around the country. Hai kahan ye light? ये जंक्शन किधर है? जंक्शन का ड्राइंग तो बनाना है, बट जंक्शन किधर है भाई? Lat longs are all wrong. So master data, I am coming to the point, I'm making a joke out of it, but it's not a joke. Master data about our infrastructure is the driving force of anything to glue together. It doesn't matter what technology it is, it could be totally different technology. I believe in standards, but I also believe that standards stifle innovation. I will fundamentally disagree with a little bit to that, but I also agree that standards should be there after some time. After some time. If you make everything go to the standards, I am always controversial in my sessions. If most of you, any of you have seen me in my past, I always introduce one left brain idea. Well, there are many standards people over here, they'll beat me up outside, but that's okay. But you see, the master data of a city is what glues everything together. If the master data is not there, no amount of technology standardization will work. Departments need to collaborate to work together. They need to have a standards body for naming is what I'm going after actually in a slightly different way. But I'll invite you to share your comments, Prashant. You come from a technology specific thing. Would you like, be controversial, it's okay.
No,
I mean, if
so
everybody agrees with
no,
everything else, we won't have a good session.
I was about, you have done half my work. So actually I will take middle position. So anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity. I am privileged to be sitting among such esteemed guests. We have touched upon multiple things, right from standards to monetization to technology to mobility. So I will begin with saying anything which is not mobile is dead. So mobility is very important. So starting with that, when we say mobility is very important, we have been talking about standards. Sir has talked about the ITOT standards. I am for standards and I am against standards, as he said, because beyond a limit, if we put too much of standardization, it really kills the innovation. But if we keep on upgrading, unfortunately, sir, I have to say this, the time for upgrading our standards is pretty long. Setting up standards is fine. The time for upgrading it continuously has to be very short, because globally the innovations are happening and the standards are evolving like every quarter. And if we start setting up standards and evolving it over 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's too late. We should set standards. However, we should have a particular time frame to evolve those, improve those, see what's happening globally, how it can add value to our ecosystem. There are few things which may not add any value, it is okay, that's fine. But there are a lot of things which can add value to our ecosystem, and that has to be upgraded. Those standards have to be upgraded very frequently. Very, very frequently. That's where I said I will take a middle position. That, in a way, that doesn't kill the innovation part also, because whatever is being innovated and required by our ecosystem is picked up in the standards also. Is which I look monetization at. One is monetization, which is real-time monetization in terms of what I am spending and what I am getting back out of that project straight away. But there are different ways. One of the ways which one of our panelists picked up is the carbon credits. Because of if the mobility is smooth, there could be a lot of, if there are no traffic jams, obviously the pollution is less. There could be a lot of carbon credits which we can pick up. That is indirect mobilization. Now, I would go a step beyond and say what are the other monetization which we are already doing, which we are probably not counting, is same pollution level, the number of health hazards which we can remove, plus the central governments on the health. And because of pollution is one major factor in India, at least in the bigger cities. And if we are able to reduce that, the spending on the health from the government on that particular domain can come down, is a monetization by itself. Similarly, George sir said about when we talk about a signal, we should not talk about one signal, it should be able to see the signals nearby, which is automated traffic flow. If we can create that flow, we save huge amount on fuel, and we are still dependent on fuel. We are dependent on external sources. We don't have internal sources for fuel. We save huge amount of forex. That's also monetization. So it is not only direct monetization which is the thing. Similarly, moving beyond mobility, because it is mobility and smart cities, we are putting a lot of sensors are being put in different cities depending upon the city condition. Let's say a city where there are many cities in India where we hear about floods every year. And if we are able to put the sensors which can tell us well in advance after a level that there is huge chance of flooding, the number of lives which can be saved and number of property which can be saved, not the unmovable property, movable property at least. That is also monetization, right? Because otherwise government give the compensation to those guys. That's also monetization. So it is not that monetization is not happening. It is happening, but unfortunately we are not counting it. We have to count that monetization also when a decision maker is talking about if I spend so much, what I am getting in return. The indirect benefits are many. We should, rather than monetization, we should be talking about ROI, not the real monetization. What we should be talking about is ROI. And yes, in a way, the other parts, I agree, slightly moving away from the standards. I would rather say we should use open source standards, that I agree, but not binding into too many standards and that domain. So that's why I said I will take the middle path. With this, I will close my remarks.
So, thank you all of you for, I have some pointed questions to each one of you based on your comments. But one of the monetization conversations so the first clarification, this mobility that this conference is about is not just mobile phones, it is about the mobility of people moving from place A to place B, different kind of mobility. We need to look at that mobility also as a issue. EV is coming up, huge number of vehicles are being built and contracts are being given. And talking about monetization, it is not that the guy who's spending the money needs to have a way to get that money back. The guy, not some other guy getting the money back. The way you were presenting it, the city gets the money back, the poor guy who implemented the bus didn't get the money. We need to get the money of the benefit back to the guy who put the money into the first place. So the monetization, the monetization loop has to be very carefully thought through and actually put into place. And EVs have been the EV bus system across many cities that are going on right now is probably one classic example of how smart mobility, green energy, EV, all of it is coming together, including the PPP version of doing it, where they are telling the bus operators to collect the fees, they keep the fees, and they get the person who gets it is the one who's giving the least cost to the city. but they are benefiting from it right away themselves. It is not that the city is giving the money, the people are giving the money to the city and the city will pay the bus operator. That model has not worked anywhere in the country today, which is why private operators have come in. So how do you get private operators to operate infrastructure projects such that they can get the money back into their own thing in a equitable manner, not making monopolies out of the system, not giving some people all the things. So the way the EV one is doing, I want all of you to go do a little bit of research. If you don't know, I'll advise you. They are actually gone down to the price point where getting the manufacturers of the EV buses to take the prime tender. So therefore, the cost price to the city is gone down to the manufacturing price of the bus. Nobody is layering it with anything else. The manufacturer of the buses are quoting for these tenders. They are then quoting for running of these buses over a 10-year period or whatever the period of operations that they are getting. They are quoting for how to charge the fees for the buses so that they can recover the cost of the buses straight away. Now they can go to the bank and the bank will fund that project. Most banks don't want to fund government projects because they don't know when the monetization is going to happen. You have a bigger problem. So banks are funding PSUs, so sir, you will get funding, we won't get funding for the same project. Right? So that's the unfortunate thing that we need to do. We need to create these circular economies. Sir, you have been doing a lot of the command center projects, George sir. I'll ask you the next question. What are the challenges that you have faced when you have implemented these projects or when you are implementing? What are your biggest set of challenges? Because if we can't remove these challenges, we will not be able to scale it, because our challenges are process challenges, as you were mentioning, tendering challenges. These challenges can easily be removed with smart ideas.
Yeah, so it's a big question. So challenges in tendering, we are a public sector organization and we are a bridge between, you can say, pure government system and the private world. So my personally, and including my company, I keep telling my officers is that how to make it happen. So even in the tender, once as we said, so we have to work with the person who is issuing the RFP, whichever department it is, to bring out those points, not because I have to win as a PSU, but because, the proper, the specification or the points are put in place. So there is good level of participation, yet those who are apples to apple comparison. If you want a particular good solution, you cannot just go on an L1 tender. Absolutely. This is what our basic problem is, that you have to be lowest and you have to be the best. These two things do not move together. So we should, when we are saying, standardization, basically what I also would agree with you in saying that it is the benchmarking. It is not, binding a particular standard, to bits and pieces, but, benchmarking that our system should be better than this level. Yeah. That helps, that helps. So you allow them people, but let us go below this quality. So the second challenge is, now the Make in India, of course, Upadhyaya is with us. He happens to be my classmate and he happens to be my batchmate in the engineering services. We are both 87 batch engineering service officer. It just happened that he joined telecom and I joined broadcasting. But I'm really very happy to see him. He's very passionate. Every time, that we do, he says, we will give free of charge, we will give you free of cost. Come over, we'll help you out. A very passionate officer. Very rare to find officers like him. So, so when we work on these things, these matters, that how we put a basic thing and then go for a Make in India solution. He said, CDOT is an organization created for telecom to benchmarking these technology things, The only problem today is he's very, inviting everybody. Not many officers do that because, a government officer, can get his salary every month, so need not worry about whether he need to be passionate or give so much of energy into the system. But organization like CDAC in the IT sector, CDOT in the telecom sector, they have made so many solutions, but yet, it has not been marketed because people do not know. Now he's doing it. And how the private sector can already use the system which are nearly freely available and make a solution around those solutions. So it, fulfills the Make in India condition, at the same time make your cost much lower if you take, all the technology from outside, and the purpose of, so much of percentage of Make in India will also happen. So I think I would tell all the private sector to, use the government, available resources, go approach, go in such an organization, we get a networking opportunity, approach the people, officers, and, get the data available. I would say we were talking about the, the data, for a city. Perhaps our country now, we are waking up into this realization how important is data. So we have not collected or stored our traffic data for years. We have not collected any data for that matter. But we have got, institutions who have got rich data with them. They have it. Research organization who have done and have the data with us. We have to, try to collect those data, And I would say that project management companies, who are consultants, they're big fours, we know, but why can't an Indian companies come up, go into these institutions and collect those specific data about it, and, get accordingly. I would say, whenever, anybody approaches me, they say, we want to do business with you. That doesn't help. You have to come out, in a government system, you have to come out with a, I say, paki hui khichdi, bani banai khichdi lekar aana hota hai. That means you have to, put the ecosystem together. Now this we'll get from this is how we're going to do this, and so, as an ecosystem, when you pitch something to a government department, things will happen. Not only the technology component, but also the price component, that this is what, it will cost. This is how we can get the return on investment, as we are talking about. Everything you have to talk. Yeah. Then an officer, then a minister, knows, okay, we can go ahead with this kind of a thing. So I would say just don't sell a, a particular product, but sell solutions. Yeah. Solutions, the entire solution. If you're able to do that, I think things are going to happen. So I think I'll leave that, and these are the challenges that...
Going to come to you on innovation, so please. I want you to focus on innovation as the...
No, I think why I'm saying standards, I'll again harp on the standards. Your M2M system cannot talk to 4G, 5G unless it is standard based. For example, if you go to the national standard compliant, today it is working system. We have given to BSNL our 4G. It is seamlessly integrated the M2M system because there is an interface between 3GPP and 1M2M. That is, in 4G it is SCF, in 5G it is NEF. So your 5G you will not be able to, utilize, 4G you will not be utilized if you are not standard based. Standards are only functional specification. The innovation is yours. How do you implement? Because why is these companies, Nokia's, Ericsson's, Cisco's come up? Standards are same. Using those standards, they use their intellectual capital in a manner that they become better than others. So I don't think because standards are inhibiting, standards are actually, helping you. First, it solves your problem. Because if security is well defined, you know that this is what I have to do. Secondly, the sharing between one-to-one. So because I have to go, I would like to, take these platforms, my presence here, that any startup working in IoT M2M we are welcoming them. They are welcome with us. We will make them one M2M compliant. If they need to be funded, we will fund them so that India gets the complete standardized one M2M ecosystem in this country. So thank you so much.
We have got a question here which we would like to open up for the session.
I have a point.
Give me just 1 second. Let him just ask and then we'll come back. This is not the last.
Good morning, everybody. I have a question. Mr. Prashant Oberoi, you said, sorry. I am Group Captain Manoj Kumar Singh from the Directorate of Standardization in Ministry of Defence, Directorate of Defence Production. I would like to ask you a question. Since we are looking after standardization, as you mentioned, you are for standardization and against standardization. How do you explain that? Because we in defence are facing problems because things are not standardized. Every time we face the problems because things are not standardized, we want to get a spare. Manufacturer X manufactures it some other specifications, manufacturer Y manufactures it some other specifications. We are not able to solve the problems. How do you explain your dichotomy, please?
Sir, that's a fair problem. That's where I said I am for standardization as well as against it, because if we work innovation based on open source solves half your problem. Till the time it is not proprietary, I am open to integrating other things with me, or I am open to integrated myself with others. So half the problem gets solved with open source, not with proprietary. When I say I am against standards is, what I am saying, let's say you make a particular XYZ as a standard, and tomorrow globally things have evolved and moved forward, and any company which adopts the global standards which have moved forward, obviously he has invested the capital onto that to adopt to those standards. And if we are still following standards which are old, obviously I would be unviable in terms of cost. That's where I requested, even if we make standards, we should evolve it very frequently so that we are up to the global standard, so that anybody who is investing the effort into that gets his ROI as well. And as again repeating, half your problem can be solved till the time it is not a proprietary technology, it is based on open source technology. That's where I said I am for standards and against standards as well.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Standards are not proprietary, and standards are global standards. They are prepared after a huge contributions from the global bodies. Moreover, standards doesn't kill the innovation, standards adds the innovation. Thirdly, I would give an example. European Union is having more than 400 platforms. There was a problem of data sharing in 2016-17. European Union allotted a project to AIoTI under Horizon 2020. That Horizon 2020 is a big name in European Union, to Alliance for Internet of Things Innovations, to come out with a solution how the data sharing between the platforms will be possible. As we are developing our smart cities here, we should create the standard-based solutions, at least at the platforms, so that the sharing of data will be possible. You see, suppose in the adjacent cities like Delhi and Noida, or Delhi or Gurgaon, if somebody, you cannot share the data in real time between the platforms, then how the police will be able to nab the criminals? The person will hit the, any car will hit the person and will run away from one city to another city. Then the video of the camera should be shared in real time between the adjacent cities. That's the main point.
So good, sir, you captured on specifically the camera thing. So let me just give you an example why I said I am for standards and against standards. Today, on the again open source, no proprietary, the biggest body which does set the standards for integration of cameras is ONVIF. No, 1 second, sir. I'm just giving you an example. Open Network Video Interface Forum, which is an open standard. There is nothing proprietary about it. There are different profiles in it. SGTM. We are as late as few months back, there is a MHA document which comes out, which still talks about only SNG. We have not moved to TNM. That's where I said we need to evolve very quickly, because what it means is, when we are talking about SNG, we are only talking about the video and the playback and the recording, nothing else. We are not talking about any analytics.
No. The data should be shared between the platforms, whatever be the camera.
All of you are on the right track of saying that there is a certain amount of standardization, but that will not prevent Delhi police from sending data to Haryana police. That might not happen, regardless of standards. But
I am waiting for my opportunity to talk.
But I 100% with you.
Well,
Chinmay,
so the thing is,
we have been given about 2 minutes to finish this.
you
so
will get the answer
close.
within that. I hope I will solve the conflict. Okay. So, well, standardization is mainly to solve and make the thing simple, right? So that is the goal of the standardization. Probably we might have had different mindsets, which is making it more and more complex, right? So the thing is, what do we do for simplifying this? It is mainly to solve the conflict. Standardization is to solve the conflict across multiple complex systems, so that each system can talk to each other. That is the, the goal of the standardization. So when we talk about smart city and smart mobility, we have already an aggregation platform that is a integrated command control center platform, right? So the use cases have to be in such a way that they make more and more the systems interoperable. Example, ICCC platforms have the capabilities of doing the asset management, creating the API conversations across the platforms, like the way camera, auto follow, or aggregate them together with some other systems. So the thing is, what has to address this is nothing but the set of the use cases in the ICCC implementation, right? So it has been, though the major goal of the smart city guidelines has been bringing in ICCC platform to integrate everything, but the projects have been implemented in such a way that everything is in a silo. That is where we have this conflict of this discussion right now. The thing is to mainly ideate a particular set of use cases who make each system interoperable. Already there is a REST API integration, ONWIF, and all these various different standards where everybody talks. Ultimately, it is a derivative of a IEEE standard, ultimately, right? So that is there existing already, but the thing is the inspection, due diligence, and the checks and balances of implementation so that make it more and more sustainable, right? So that is where it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chinmay, Dr. Upadhyay, Prashant, George sir. We have talked a lot about the topic of why we are here today. We have to close this session right now, so I'll take your question in the next session, which is also similar, and I am only chairing it. I'll start with you first and let you speak, and then we'll go. But this session needs to close.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for the wonderful session we had. As I invite Mr. Rajat Mukherjee, Director General Broadband India Forum, to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Smart Cities, Intelligent and Mobility for India 2022. What could one have expected more than having such a smart panel here? And then one comes away with so much knowledge every time one of these sessions takes place. It's amazing. And, there's a lot of talk about standardization. And I'm glad that there's no standardization as far as building and inculcating knowledge is concerned, because otherwise we'd all be frozen in one point in time. But, cities have to get smart. There's no question about that. Whether it is use of cameras, whether it is not the use of cameras, just the lights, the example that was being given to us about the categorization by number of the lights. This is how the digital systems right across the entire country need to start getting first normalized, and then integrated, and then eventually smart. So it's a case of going from kindergarten up to your postgraduate qualification. And I think at this present point of time, we're still somewhere in high school stage. We need to be able to develop much, much more. No question about the fact that we require a good, stable broadband system. No question about the fact that every one of these systems have to talk to each other. No question about the fact that without this kind of integration, there would be nothing smart. But these are all the points which have been raised by the members on the dais today, and I'd like to thank them for setting the tone for the rest of the day today. Let me just say very quickly, thank you to each and every one of them, and thank you to Bharat Exhibitions as well as ETSI for having set this up in the first place. Have a good session today, a smart session. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I request Mr. Shashidharan, Managing Director, Bharat Exhibitions, to kindly do the honors of presenting a small memento, a token of gratitude and appreciation to our eminent panelists. We begin with our guest of honor, Dr. Rajkumar Upadhyay, Executive Director, C. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for being here with us. We present to Shri George Kuruvilla, CMD Broadcast Engineering Consultants India Limited. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for being here with us today. We present to Shri Sushil Kumar, DDG IoT Telecommunication Engineering Center. Thank you, sir, for gracing this occasion. We present to Mr. Chinmay Hegde, MD, Estricos Consulting Private Limited. We present to Mr. Prashant Oberoi, Head National Sales E-Governance Northern Communication. Thank you very much indeed. And we also present to our very distinguished moderator for this session, Dr. Sumit D. Chaudhary, Founder, Chairman and MD, JI Smart Cities. Thank you, Mr. Shashidharan, for doing the honors. May I request for a group photograph of the panel? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have a short break for tea and coffee of 15 minutes. It is served on my right-hand side. I request you all to be back and seated in 15 minutes for the next session. Thank you.